Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
You know what's absolutely wild? Kyle Tucker has been sitting at the top of every free agent rankings list since November, universally recognized as the best player available this offseason. Yet here we are in early January, and the guy still doesn't have a contract. How is that even possible? Think about it. This is a four-time All-Star outfielder who's about to turn 29 in a couple weeks. He's entering what should be the prime years of his career, and somehow the market for him has been ice cold. We're not talking about some borderline starter here. This is Kyle Tucker, a player who can change the entire trajectory of a franchise, and yet the silence around his free agency is deafening. The most significant development we've seen happened over a month ago when Tucker took a visit to the Blue Jays facility in Dunedin. Since then, basically nothing. Radio silence. And in today's baseball landscape where information leaks constantly and every rumor gets amplified across social media, that kind of quiet is really strange. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite the lack of buzz, industry insiders are still pointing toward Toronto as the most likely landing spot. Even after they dropped $60 million over 4 years on Kazuma Okamoto last week, people around the game still think the Blue Jays are going to be the ones who ultimately land Tucker. That tells you something about their commitment level right now. And honestly, it makes perfect sense when you look at what Toronto has been building. They already locked up Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with that massive extension, sending a clear message to the entire league that they're not messing around anymore. They brought in Dylan Cease to bolster the rotation. Their lineup is already dangerous, but imagine what it looks like with Tucker's left-handed power added to the mix. You'd be looking at a team that could legitimately challenge for American League supremacy. One source put it perfectly when they said that once Toronto extended Vladdy, they basically announced to everyone that they're going all in. The Cease signing was huge, but Tucker would be the cherry on top of what's been a really impressive year of roster construction. We're talking about a potential championship core here. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: money. Toronto's payroll is already hovering around $300 million, which is astronomical by most standards. Adding Tucker at his projected price point would push that number into territory that only a handful of teams in baseball can even contemplate. We're talking about a commitment that would make even the biggest market teams think twice. But the Blue Jays have something working in their favor timing-wise. After the 2026 season, they'll have more than $70 million coming off the books. George Springer, Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, and Dalton Varsho are all scheduled to hit free agency, which means that massive payroll number starts coming back down to earth pretty quickly. So while the short-term financial commitment looks insane, the long-term flexibility is still there. Tucker himself is reportedly looking for something in the neighborhood of $300 million, possibly pushing toward $400 million. That's a massive ask, and it's definitely limiting the pool of teams that can realistically compete for his services. Beyond Toronto, you've got the usual suspects circling. The Yankees and Mets both make sense given their financial muscle and need for outfield help. The Diamondbacks, Giants, and Dodgers have all been mentioned as potential suitors too. But here's the thing that's really puzzling. Despite all these teams supposedly being interested, nobody's actually making a serious push. There's interest, sure, but where's the urgency? Where's the competitive bidding that usually drives these massive free agent contracts? It's just not happening, at least not publicly. And Tucker isn't the only big name still sitting out there. You've got Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, and Zach Gallen all still looking for deals. That's a lot of high-end talent still unsigned this deep into the offseason. One National League executive basically said the quiet part out loud, noting that this has been surprisingly slow for Tucker and several other top-tier free agents. The reality seems to be that those astronomical contract projections we were all hearing back in November were probably too optimistic. The market is speaking, and what it's saying is that those massive deals we saw recently, like Ohtani's historic contract, Guerrero's extension, and Yamamoto's massive payday, those might be outliers rather than the new normal. Teams are being more cautious, more deliberate, and frankly, more conservative with their spending. The Bo Bichette situation adds another layer of complexity to all this. If Toronto decides they want to bring back Bichette on a new contract, that could completely change the math on Tucker. Suddenly, the team that's been viewed as the frontrunner might not have the financial bandwidth to make it work, which would remove the biggest bidder from the equation entirely. Then there's the New York dynamic to consider. Both the Yankees and Mets need outfield help badly, but word is they both prefer Bellinger to Tucker. Now that doesn't mean they won't pivot to Tucker, especially since only one of them can land Bellinger, but it does suggest that Tucker might not have as robust a market as everyone initially thought. What we're witnessing here is basically a high-stakes game of chicken. Tucker and his representation are holding firm on their valuation, believing he's worth that $300 to $400 million commitment. Teams are looking at the market, seeing other quality players still available, and wondering if they really need to break the bank for Tucker when there might be other ways to upgrade their rosters at lower price points. The next couple of weeks are going to be absolutely crucial. Spring training is approaching fast, and nobody wants to be scrambling to finalize a deal once pitchers and catchers report. At some point, either Tucker's asking price comes down or a team decides they can't risk losing out on him and steps up with the kind of offer that gets a deal done. My gut says Toronto still ends up being the team that makes it happen, but the longer this drags on, the more uncertainty creeps in. And in baseball, uncertainty usually means someone's going to end up disappointed, whether that's the player who doesn't get the contract he expected or the team that misses out on a generational talent because they waited too long to make their move.